Wow. Welcome back to Podcast Bozo, where the four of us teach each other new things each week, talk with guests, and rib tickle each other. Today, we are talking about what you say versus how you say it, which is skewed way more towards how you say it than you'd think. We're going to take a look at the science of these things, the difference between monkeys and humans, gender stigmas, and much more. Today, on Season 4, Episode 2, I'm here with Eli, our resident artist, Cheek, our certified realtor, and our transitioning drifter, Corey. And of course, I'm JJ, but you can call me Timmy the Tickler. Before we put the pedal to the metal, we want to encourage you to contribute to the conversation, communicate with us over the social medias or our website. Cheek, how would they find us?
What you're going to do is you're going to go to whatever social media you're interested in following us on, and you're going to type in at Podcast Bozo. That's at PODCASTBOZO. That's at Podcast Bozo. Give us a like, give us a rating, give us a 5-star review, and we appreciate you.
Cheek, you rib tickle me every day. Speaking of our website, go there, donate. We'll read whatever you write in the donation message. Or we will write you a little backstory, and if you're not sure what that means, you can donate to find out. Plus, the money all goes back into production and distribution of the podcast, and to Corey's stuffed Beanie Baby addiction. So thank you very much for that. Corey, speaking of your Beanie Baby addiction, how's life?
Tell us about yourself.
Oh, Cheek.
Jinx, you owe me a kombucha.
And that's enough about Corey. So, E, how was your week? Corey, who are you?
I'm Corey. Born and raised in the old St. Louis, Missouri. I currently reside in Nashville, Tennessee. Work in the music industry. Not currently, but in a more long-term sense. And I'm a happy guy. I love living. I love the feeling of grass in between my toes. I love the sound of bugs in the morning.
Little Kentucky blue and bugs. Gotta like that.
I like the smell that you get after some rain.
Petrichor.
All right. We weren't asking for your dating profile, but that's all right. Now, JJ mentioned in your intro that you were transitioning. Are you transitioning careers? Are you transitioning gender identity? Are you transitioning into a magnificent butterfly? Tell us about your transition, Corey.
I would say I'm in the cocoon right now, waiting to emerge as a beautiful butterfly. Hopefully that happens sometime in the next year. My transition's just with my whole life in general, I'm just figuring things out right now. Yeah.
Well,
nice.
Congratulations. We've all been there.
Well, yeah. In the butterfly, if you haven't been able to tell, Eli, Cheek, and I are all butterflies now, but Corey will be one soon. Come the end of spring.
I'm here to learn.
You start your first few episodes on Podcast Bozo as a cocoon, and as you gain experience, you emerge a glorious butterfly.
Yeah, we've seen it. One of us is not, but you'll find out at the end of the episode which one is not.
Is somebody a moth?
Yeah, someone turned into an ugly, dusty moth.
Oh, man. Hey, you know what? I'll take some notes from them. Moths can be beautiful, too.
They love the light.
They love the light. That's true. Always chasing the light. That's the message.
Anyone out there taking advantage of Way Day?
Is this your banter, Cheek?
Way Day? What? Tell us about Way Day.
What is
Way Day, where
Cheek?
everything on Wayfair is 100% off and everything's free. But it's not actually free. Everything's 90% off.
What the?
On Wayfair?
Yeah.
Just today.
Amazon has Prime Day. Wayfair's doing Way Day. And so me and my partner just balled out and bought all new bedding.
No way. What do you say?
Take a
what
look.
A day. Cheek,
I
you're
need
gonna
a
load
bed
up.
frame. My bed's on the floor right now.
Dude, now's the day. Now it ends at midnight. Now's the day.
All right, I'm buying a bed frame today.
Totally unsolicited Wayfair plug, by the way. They in no way sponsor this podcast.
Brought to you by Kirkland Cookies and Cream Protein Bars.
You getting a bed frame for all those Beanie Babies, Corey?
Yeah, tell us about the Beanie Baby obsession. What's up with that?
So
Collecting.
I had my first Beanie Baby when I was 4 years old. It was a zebra. And just something about the way you can sling those bad boys at people just got me hooked.
I know what you mean.
Would you
So, yeah,
consider
now
yourself an unconventional collector then? Given
I would
the
say
joy you get out
so.
of them? Yeah.
It's like a child-friendly weapons collection. You know, some people collect guns, some people collect swords, some people collect knives. I collect Beanie Babies, and someday my kids will really appreciate that because they'll be able to play with them.
Are you
For the
gonna
libertarian
use
in all of us.
the children's weapons to whip at your children, or
Maybe tough love, you know.
tough love?
Yeah.
And will those weapons come in handy when intruders break into your place?
I honestly think so. I was having a conversation with a guy today who owns a gun he carries, and I don't really have a big problem with guns, you know, like I've shot guns before. But this guy's just talking about the times I was asking him when he's felt like he's had to use it. And it was kind of comical to me when he felt like he needed to have a gun. You know, there was one night he woke up in the middle of the night, his roommates texting him, "Hey, I think someone's trying to kick in the door." They go check it out. He's got his gun with him. Screen door is just banging up against the front door because there's a storm. And I was like, man, aren't you glad you had your gun there?
Yeah.
So in a situation
Go
like
shoot the
that,
storm.
I have a Beanie Baby. At the end of the day, it looks like it's there for comfort, right? It doesn't look like, oh, you just pulled your weapon to go check on the door. It just looks smart at that point, you know? So it's kind of multifaceted in that sense.
You're gonna really taint the name of Beanie Babies. Like if you think about how Juul like kind of progressed, it was supposed to be like a safe alternative to cigarettes. And then it like got outlawed because it was like used in the wrong way. And if you really think about it, like the way you're using this, it becomes widespread. People are gonna need, by the end of the summer, gonna need a permit to have a Beanie Baby in their home.
Dude, I'm
Background
sure
checks.
that Beanie Baby is like a legacy item right now. I bet you they would be ecstatic if there was some random internet marketing conversation that exploded their sales. They probably would not care what the reason was.
Background checks for Beanie Babies. That's their new marketing.
Yeah, is that
campaign.
industry hurting right now?
I don't know. The plush toy industry.
I feel like kids are a lot more.
There's some much
interested in
softer ones
phones.
out there.
Yeah, but think about what Webkins did to the industry. They took the Beanie Baby and made it digital. And I
Yeah.
don't.
Is that like a Tamagotchi?
Yeah, but it was
it's
a
more
it was
plush.
it was like a stuffed animal, but it had a code with it, and you plugged it in online in the website to your account, and then it was like, think about Club Penguin, but you buy these
Buy your penguin.
real life animals, yeah, and you could buy multiple, and you load them onto your account, and then you can do stuff with them.
It was pretty rad.
That was crazy. I love that. But that definitely died out. I have not seen Webkins in a long time.
Yeah, my sister was real into those, and not afraid to say that I got myself one time because I wanted to see what it was all about.
So awkward.
All right, moving on. I think that's enough on
Plush
fucking
toys.
Webkins. Yeah.
I actually really want to get into Animal Crossing, if that's a good transition.
No.
Why, JJ?
Because what you say is actually more important than how you say it. Actually, vice versa. So I don't know if you guys have any exposure to this like discussion, but I always kind of like heard this as like a quippy thing, like how you say something is more important than what you say. But And I was like, all right, yeah, maybe like what the point of that saying is that like, oh, you should consider how you say something more than you normally would, because it's not just about like the transcript of what you're saying. And I looked into it, and things that came up were like, I mean, it's kind of natural. Like things that came up were like in interviews, how you should be talking, public speaking, eye contact, body posture, gestures, distance, physical contact, facial expressions, voice, tone, inflection, volume, fluency, timing, listening, persistence, content, you know, like all these like factors. There was all these drill downs. I would say the most popular way to talk about this was like in the idea of like someone giving a presentation, or how you conduct yourself in an interview. And I was honestly surprised, and we'll get into this a little later when I was doing some research, is that like in the early 2000s, there was this whole movement, talking about vocal fry, which is kind of like the Valley Girl stereotype, and how that like there's this whole thing. And I don't know, I'll get into it in a little bit, but the first example that I came across that really was hitting the nail on the head was this person that was like saying the phrase, "What are you doing?" in many different ways. So there is like what are you doing? And then there's, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know, she had 13 different ways to say it, and each one kind of would be very different. And that was kind of hitting the nail on the head in terms of describing exactly what I was looking for, is that like the inflection, the enthusiasm, the fundamental differences between like that monotonous teacher you had and the fun, swinging arches, explosion science guy that like really gets you into science, you know? But so the first thing that, so this guy named Albert Mehrabian did a study and Mehrabian, well-known guy, 90% of what you say is received outside of the transcript of what you're saying. So like, he would take in people and change their inflections, reduce their inflections, have them do body language or like block off their body or just block off their face. He did all this stuff. So at some point I actually really want to get into like a body language type, discussion, because it's the other half of this discussion. Exactly. With your gestures, as Eli used to call them. But yeah, so that being said, 55% of of that 97% of what you say is outside of the transcript of what you're saying. 55% of that is your body. 35% is inflection, leaving 7% of that to be just what you are, like the actual words. Do you guys have any idea how the ears take in, like sound, like how they actually like receive it?
Waves.
Yeah, but how
I
those
believe that'd be
waves?
a .wav format.
I think we deal with that on this podcast.
My guess is that sound enters your ear canal and hits your eardrum, and the vibrations are then interpreted by your brain as the specific sounds they are, the way that your eardrum vibrates.
It's very close. Cheek, did you have something to say, or what was that exasperated breath for?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, chill out.
Watch yourself.
But basically what this comes down to is kind of like Corey said, there's these tiny little itsy bitsy, like silly hairs on your eardrum. And when they detect that they're being moved, they shoot a neuron out to the tip of it, or not. I don't know. Neuron is my generic term. So ear hairs, they wiggle around, shoot off receptors. When the waves hit them, the amplitude of how much they shake and to which directions indicates noise level and pitch, respectively. Jeez, finally you got to finish talking about ears. So, one study that I thought you'd find that was interesting, that kind of like highlights how receptive we are to pitch and not just like the things that are being said, is that they cross-examined the sounds that we hear with chimps, and they isolated.
So sick.
Yeah, they isolated
monkeys.
the noises, which to us are words, but like to chimps, it wouldn't mean anything, from the pitches. And they found that chimps responded to the noises, even of just like our voices, and they did it both ways, more than they did to pitch. And then for us, when they did it with humans, with both just the human words and just the chimp words isolated from the pitch, we almost like never react to just the noises. But the pitch would catch human attention, and they did this on like all age ranges as well. And like, it was just
interesting.
Knockout dead every time. We reacted to pitch and not the noise, while the chimps were kind of like half and half.
That was a bit of a naughty explanation. You're saying that the chimps did not react to the pitch. They reacted to...
So I said that wrong. They reacted to the pitch and the noise equally. Mm-hmm. When isolated separately.
What is the noise?
The noise being like chimp language, like the words the chimps are saying.
Like, were we speaking chimp language?
Like
language to chimps?
Exactly like that.
Nice.
But they were able.
I think he's saying they're playing.
Yeah, they were playing like chimp sounds, and they were able to, for the chimps, isolate the actual like language part of it, as if you like had Microsoft Sam for chimps. and then you had the other side of it, where it was just the tones without what they were saying. They could isolate those sounds somehow. Don't ask me how. They played it for you in the YouTube video that I was listening to, and it just sounded like nonsense to me. But that's probably good that I don't speak chimp. Cheek, you probably speak chimp, but I was gonna
dabble.
He spent a year with the apes. I think he learned something. And then the experiment was performed on
he's
humans.
He's the biggest Planet of the Apes guy here.
Yeah.
I'm actually...
He's a P-Apes guy.
Jane Goodall was my godmother, little known fact. You're saying that humans responded more to pitch?
Yeah, so they did the same thing for humans, where they isolated the words they were saying as like a Microsoft Sam, and then the pitch and inflections of what they were saying, and then they
weren't.
What do you mean?
I was just trying to prove you wrong.
Oh, okay. So your hot take, Cheek.
Sorry.
Save your...
Bring a little evidence next time.
I stepped on the gas a little too early there. I apologize.
Cheek, you should start doing that more often in these episodes, where you just nope.
Especially when we have guests on.
Yeah. Talking about their expertise, and Cheek's like, absolutely not. That's not true.
No, that's not true.
And then you just exit the interview.
Now, my grandma said no.
I talked to Rob, who he stands on the corner a lot. He said, absolutely not. I trust Rob more than you, guy I've never met before. But yeah, so humans would not recognize those same things or react to them equally. They would react to the pitch much more often. And when I'm saying react, they're taking like brainwave activity as well, too, not just like I turned around and looked at you and you made some squeaky noise. But yeah, so I thought that was interesting. And I think that kind of sets us apart evolutionarily, I guess. I heard one argument that like the inflections in our voice. Well, I watched one video that was kind of interesting and read a couple articles on like what defines beauty. And there's a biological aspect, and then there's also like a societal aspect. And a lot of the times when you hear someone talk weird or differently and you count them off as dumb or smarter than you or whatever, a lot of that comes from just them being in circles of people that you associate with that identity that you're handing them. So like if someone is, if you're watching a TED Talk, for example, you're going to immediately, I mean, the setting helps in that a lot too. You're not expecting to see an idiot when you turn on a TED Talk, but Reggie Watts, who I'm sure y'all know, did a little example of this, and he just like talked in that kind of TED Talk tone, using big words to try to emulate like a TED Talk. And he did this for like 30. Well, he was on like an hour-long segment, but for like a good 30 seconds to maybe even a minute and a half, he was using things. And one thing that he said was like, using modular dynamicism, we can recreate, unfold, resequence, understand, and reshape the way we think about thought itself. By constantly monitoring thought itself, it will not only lead you nowhere, but it will lead you anywhere. That's just a little clip from it. But
Love talking like that.
yeah, it's like what happens when you click the autoresponder on LinkedIn way too much. And you get like those generic terms that are just being like thrown out there, like marketing modulism helps with secular families relate to larger sects of bigger co-working spaces. It's just like using buzzwords over and over again to make yourself sound smart. And said in the right way, you can sound smart no matter if you're saying mumbo jumbo or not. Or you can sound like AJ and just sound like you're just babbling nothing. But if you don't know who AJ is, you're lucky.
I don't think they know who AJ is.
He's a journey.
Yeah, you probably don't know who AJ is. But like the idea there is that like if you're watching a TED Talk and you see someone just babbling mumbo jumbo, if they're saying it in a smart, confident way, even if you're not listening, you're going to be trying to find the meaning in their words, and trying to look for something that they're saying is smart. Conversely, vocal fry, which I didn't realize was such a controversial term, or even concept, is like the idea of people who talk in that like Valley Girl, so to speak, accent, where it's like, I'm going to try to emulate it, but give me a break here. It's like, I'm just so not interested in this.
It's like that California raspy.
Oh, I took the sun. Hold on. It's like the bit on from SNL. The Californians.
Yeah.
I took Sunset Boulevard down to the 304 and tried to make it to the Long John Silver's by 4 p.m.
Yeah, it's like that. That's actually more. That's a little different. Where that's like the risen inflection at the end of your voice, but it falls in the same category. Like the Valley Girl talk is like this raspy, like you were gonna say, breathless, like end to all your words. It was actually kind of interesting because a lot of these videos I was looking at were from like the early 2000s. And they were very, very critical of specifically only women who talked that way. And they were all like other women saying like, if you're they're targeting females and saying like, if you're talking this way as a female, you're coming off as incredible, not credible, I should say. And like you're going to sound dumb, and like people like this do sound dumb. And there was almost no criticism of like men who talked like that. And it was and then I started digging deeper like into vocal fry itself and finding out that there was like a huge issue with that because it was targeting vocal fry as this like female only issue, and it's them coming off as a problem, and people started examining that more and saying that like men who were talking with vocal fry weren't being judged at all, and they were put up in comparison tests to see like who sounded smarter, and it was yeah.
Pardon me for interrupting, but why would you need to criticize a man? Like we do everything usually the right way, whereas women constantly have things that they can improve on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was just
it's important for them to think about how they're coming across, you know? Like it's not my fault if they come across as dumb. Like you should be speaking in a proper and appropriate manner.
And it's one thing to say that like everyone who speaks with vocal fry like might want to think about that in like a professional setting or something like that. But every single one of these videos from like the early 2000s was like females talk this way. Every clip was an example of a woman that did it. It was just kind of interesting. And I guess like, and I even had to kind of like check myself a little bit because I started looking up like men with vocal fry. And like, I noticed it less, honestly. And it was like, I was like, wow, that's kind of fucked up. But with vocal fry, there was a lot of people that with more modern arguments saying that like, yeah, maybe vocal fry isn't good, but it's not technically an indication of intelligence. It's just more of an association we make culturally based on people who talk. It's a stereotype, I guess, is kind of like the idea behind that. But I don't know. Do you guys have takes on that?
Do you think that TV shows like Beverly Hills or 40210 contributed to the negative mindset that people portray or associate that vocal fry with, and somebody maybe not being as intelligent? Not to say that those characters on those shows or the people on those shows were unintelligent, but I feel as though that's how they came across a lot of the time.
Yeah, I've never seen those shows, so I can't speak to it. But if it's anything like the SNL skit, then yes.
The Hills?
Yeah.
Beverly Hills? 90210? Like,
wait,
come on.
Wait, say it one more
Paris
way.
Hilton?
Oh. No, I haven't seen that.
It's like how Paris Hilton got famous, like those shows. No? Corey was the Hills guy.
I'll be honest, I haven't seen any of those.
Give us a scene from Beverly Hills.
I know what they are, though.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm trying to get at here?
Definitely. Absolutely. I mean, I think I think the Valley Girl, like kind of descriptor that JJ like used is right. That's definitely like it's like the daft, pretty blonde, like Paris Hilton concept that you like most easily relate that to. Like that's the easiest stereotype to latch that kind of speak onto it. I'm wondering, maybe this is outside of what you researched or maybe even the concept, but like accents. I know like with Southern accent, it's typically associated with lower intelligence. Is that the same concept, or is this a different idea?
Yeah, so that broke into the idea of like someone from another language speaking broken English, different accents even within your same language. I saw a lot of stuff about that, and so yeah, like I mean, Valley Girl or vocal fry. It was coined vocal fry because people were so critical of it. They even made up studies saying that it was bad for your voice, for female voices specifically. Like that, it was so funny. Like the early studies on it were like, this is gonna hurt your voice. But yeah, with accents and like the Texas accent or like there's definitely, even within Southern accents, there are certain accents that have been labeled as more dumb than other accents. So
do you think that there are certain accents that could make me come across as the smartest guy in the world?
If I don't know, gee.
The best and the most successful guy in the world. If I talk like this when I'm meeting my clients, okay? Am I going to sell more homes? They're going to think I'm the smartest.
I think you could find a group of people who would buy more homes from you, Cheek. And that's kind of the point of this is that like there is a time. And so like, there's the professional advice of like talking a certain way. Personally, my opinion is like, if you want to talk in vocal fry, then you can be smart and figure out a way to be smart. If people are going to devalue your intelligence because you have broken English or talk like Donald Trump or, I don't know, you speak in your own like peer language, then I think that I'd be all for like you trying to find your way with vocal fry. But there is like a lot of people who say like, well, this is, and I understand this, like, well, this is society right now and you want a job right now. So like, if you want to be aware of how people perceive you, then maybe step away from that lower inflection at the end of your voice. I
mean, the people who are judging someone off the sound of their voice probably aren't too smart to begin with.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
yeah, but those people are in positions of power.
Yeah. So it's a catch-22.
Just like it's the whole tattoos thing too. Like, oh, if you want a job in business, don't get tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be seen with tattoos at an interview. You'll never get a job.
Yeah.
Like, what do tattoos have to do with how well I can or cannot perform whatever medial tasks you're probably going to have me doing?
Right. And then the argument for that would be like, well, our clients might have to see you, or you might be client facing. It's like, well, that only matters if they care too. Like how far down does this go? But at the same time, it's our reality. So it's like, it's like, maybe it's okay to have an awareness of it. I don't know. I don't really know.
You could even tie it back to when we talked about like the advertising industry and how they use certain body types that, you know, say, you know, it's a swimsuit company and they want to sell more swimsuits. So they use, you know, thin models, perpetuating that like society needs to be thin. And it's like, okay, well, you know, for we want the company to be more forward thinking. So we want them to have all sized models, but that's not what's going to sell them swimsuits right now. Right now, in the society that we live in, having a certain body type is going to sell them more swimsuits than otherwise.
And then
But you're not going to move anywhere unless society as a whole bands together and uses our power to defeat the corporations.
That little Dragon Ball Z move you just did.
Captain Corporation's cheek.
Pow!
Yeah, I mean, that's like, you see the shift towards like, even like in the mannequin industry, there are like more, it's become more popular to sell mannequins that are more realistic body sizes, because society has finally pushed that way. But like, it's kind of like you guys were talking off, which I think was actually off air. It's kind of like how you're saying, Corey, that like, that no artist really wants to be the first to book a tour right now in these times. It's like someone else has to do it first to make it acceptable, and then you can kind of like jump on. And then everyone else jumping on isn't the one to blame. So like if you're the first to move to that like mannequin thing, then you can kind of see if it works, if people respond to it well, if it sells well, and then everyone else can kind of follow in the footsteps. Yeah, I don't know. So I thought that was interesting. And that plays into like the whole beauty thing too. Like our perception of beauty was interesting because if you take a look at the peacock, it like every time you look at an animal that distinguishes itself with beauty or like sounds or something like that, many of those times there's an example of that beauty coming at a cost to its actual survivability, therefore like indicating its strength. An example being like the peacock has these beautiful feathers to attract the peahen, which I realized was a term today. But there's actually no practical hunting ability to having those giant feathers, and it's actually a drag on their abilities. So to have bigger feathers actually means that you're a stronger peacock because you have better survivability to be able to overcome this like extra thrill.
It's like you can handle the disadvantage of having feathers.
Yeah, exactly. And it a comparison that they made was like someone who buys the $10,000 watch as a human is maybe more appealing as a viable candidate because they have the money and means to be able to shell off this useless amount of money,
Yeah. That's dope. So if I just spent like a ton, like thousands of dollars on cardboard cutouts and useless stuff, people would be like, hey, that guy's hot. He can just waste money like that.
Yeah. Or like you're building your Beanie Baby collection.
Yeah.
Cardboard cutouts.
I don't know. This might be going down a hole too far away from where we started, but there are animals that have evolved over time to their detriment because the specific genetic lines with certain traits that were attractive to the females, but actually caused them harm in the wild developed, right? That is a thing.
I don't know much about that, but
it's so interesting how that's possible because you think about evolution and the idea of like the strongest or like the most adaptable will survive, but like there are those interesting cases where there are beings that overlook the survivability, or it's not important because they're attracted to something else that in the end could get them killed more easily. Yeah.
And I just, as far as everything I know about evolution, that doesn't make any sense. But like, I know what you're saying is true. I don't know how to describe that. I guess beyond that, it's being something interesting to look into, I guess.
We'll have to fact check that. Thanks for your contribution.
You don't believe it?
I believe it. I feel like I've heard that.
I could see it. I could see it. Again, I'm not a science guy either.
And I might be talking out of my ass there, but I really think that's a thing.
Listeners, if you're at all aware of what Corey's speaking to, write in, DM us, tweet at us, interact, tell us.
We have a large anti-evolution following, so maybe they'll have something to say.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I don't know if that's
damn
true. But yeah, there's an interesting example. So like, I'll lead this back into ears in your little hairs in your ears in a second. But there's an interesting way that someone described like beauty in terms of like evolution and how that plays into it. One way they looked at it was like, if you look at it and you're like, oh, why would evolution tell me something's beautiful when like I can see throughout society that it shifted, that kind of thing, or why do the peacocks really all prefer more feathers, or do they all share the same exact preference as a species? And the answer for most cases of evolution is no. What you see happen is that the species with a preference that actually leads to greater reproduction ends up getting that evolutionary victory more often. So if like bird 1 prefers green, bird 2 prefers red, bird 3 prefers yellow, none of those things really have to do with green, whatever those colors I use, red, yellow. None of those preferences have anything to do with the survivability of any of those. But what ends up happening is eventually one of those preferences actually has a lower fertility rate, or produces less, or some kind of other genetic preference that coincides. And so maybe at a 3-to-2-to-1 ratio, yeah, Cheek?
You can finish your thought. I was just come back to me.
All right. But maybe at like a 3-to-2-to-1 ratio, the red, the green, and the blue reproduce. And therefore, like red, when it reproduces, has 3 peahens and peacocks, and then 2 and 1. And after that happens over generation and generation, the red preference becomes a genetic dominant in the area, if that makes any sense. Cheek, sorry, go ahead. What were you sticking your little thingies
I was
up
wondering
for?
if you reached out to Neil deGrasse to get him on as our science correspondent. Have we heard back from him on that yet, or is he booked? Or
He responded and said soon, in the near future, right?
Yeah, he said just keep listening. He's going to be on.
Keep listening, and
he could be on this one.
You probably could hear Neil. And if Neil doesn't make it, I'm pretty sure he said he was going to
send
forward our information to Bill.
Yeah.
Bill Nye, I believe that was.
Tight loop. And Bill said if he can't make that, he'll forward our information to AJ. None of you know AJ, so.
God, I hope he does.
I actually do at Neil deGrasse Tyson at least twice a month, just to.
Didn't you message him about flat Earth?
I tried to get him and the flat Earth account I follow into an argument, but only the flat Earth account.
Tried baiting them into it. I was gonna say, what if he's blocked you by now?
I don't want Neil to think we're flat earthers, because one day this thing's gonna be big enough where he's gonna want to come on, and talk about things to us.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that we're flat earthers. I was just saying like, ooh, y'all have different views on this, and
Neil deGrasse, you sound pretty rattled, bub.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Oh, but that brings me back
Moon's
to
made of cheese, dude. Neil deGrasse Tyson's been pretty quiet ever since these flat earthers said the moon was made of cheese.
Yeah, they were right. Ever since Bob Lazar went up there and took a bite out of the moon, Neil deGrasse Tyson's been out in the streets.
Get Bob.
I don't think we could get Bob.
Yeah, I really don't think you want to be on this.
If the moon was made of cheese, what kind of cheese would you want the moon to be made of? 3, 2, 1, go.
Pepper jack.
Good answer.
Brie.
Changing your cheeses.
Doubling back for Brie. Not surprising. Jeez.
Gross.
Never double back for Brie.
Jay, do you have an answer to that?
Havarti, because then you could have a Havarti party.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's the stinkiest cheese you guys know? I'm not a big cheese guy.
Ooh.
All I really know is
Cordon
cheddar.
bleu.
Cordon bleu,
Brie
that's
is a
stink.
stinky cheese.
Brie?
There's like a softer brie that's more stinky,
Yeah.
and it's like brie's second
Stinkier cousin.
I just
Some
had
French
It's like
stinky cheese.
brie's kissing.
I just
cousin.
had
Bad evolution right there.
Gruyere cheese, and that was pretty stinky.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Gruyere.
I'd say.
Gruyere with mac and cheese.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Pro tip.
I'd like a good
Oh,
manchego.
I'm a big Manchego fan. I respect that answer.
Manchego's
My name is
very
Diego
good.
Manchego. Isn't that who that is?
Come on, father, prepare to die. My name is Diego Manchego. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Stop saying that. My name is Diego Manchego. You killed my father. Prepare to eat cheese.
And
All right, I'm
that,
done.
that was an audio example of inflections in your voice. Yeah.
Ear hairs are prickled up after that.
Yeah, I have titillated little ear hairs. But yeah, so my whole point with the beauty and evolution and preference thing is like, why did we evolve to like be attracted to inflection noises if like the monkeys aren't necessarily more prone to them? What is that evolutionary? What does it have to mean? There are some theories out there that say like being able to judge the inflection in one's voices is just a byproduct of language and how complex language can be. There are some people that say inflection of the voice is like a survival technique. You can tell like the urgency based on that inflection. There's some that say it comes down to just that like reproduction thing, and like it just so happened that the more fertile cheeks of the world have more inflectuated voices, therefore create more children. What do you think about that one, Cheek?
I agree.
Yeah.
So are there any concrete decisions, or is it just kind of all theories?
A lot of theories. I mean, beauty in itself, not just like decision on voices and like preference on voice, is kind of up for grabs. The general idea is that like, if you're talking about like, this only really focuses on like hetero relationships, but like, having more testosterone generally defines your job more, makes more of a brow. Having more estrogen will kind of make a rounder face, and then there's the factors of like higher cheekbones. Cheek, you got a nice round face.
Hey, looking at my pronounced jaw over here. What do they say about mustaches on there?
They didn't say anything about those. But the whole idea is, and then with like women, the idea, the reason like people like higher cheekbones and higher cheekbones and less round faces is because that's a sign of age and therefore like fertility. Again, that's only obviously with like hetero relationships, and I'm sorry for the nearsighted study on that, but that's just, I'm not a scientist. I'm just telling you what some guy on YouTube said. But the whole idea there is that like these preferences come from biological traits that are kind of like antiquated, and as a species, like the sentiment that this person I was watching left it off with is like, maybe we shouldn't be judging purely off beauty anymore, and that we should be shifting as a society to like change what our values in terms of beauty are. And it's been proven that you can change what beauty values are weighted more in people. And that's actually, interestingly enough, falls into that realm of like the rich guy buying the watch to show he can survive while spending recklessly. As a species, we have become strong enough in most cases that we don't have to worry about survival wise. Like a parasite isn't going to kill Cheek in his sleep, most likely. You're not sleeping under palm leaves anymore, Cheek. So you're not going to get crushed by an elephant.
Not until I go on Survivor.
Well, that's true. Is that a dream of yours?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
big time.
Big time dream.
Do you think you would win?
Do you think you're cunning enough, Cheek? How far would your accents get you?
Oui, oui. I think I could get pretty far. I'm a people person. Everything that I do in life revolves around, being able to communicate pretty well. And I think I'm a likable person. So if I was just devious enough, I think I could go the 100.
Would you use a different voice if you're on Survivor?
Probably not. Probably use my regular voice.
Just curious. You said you wanted to be devious. You have a pretty happy voice.
I think it would be pretty easy, or it would be hard to maintain a fake voice. Like, you know, day 10, like you're pretty hungry. You've only been eating rice and you're going to lash out at fucking like Eli over there who keeps eating all the coconuts and not sharing. Like, I can't maintain my fake accent. I'm just going to lash out, you know. There are going to be moments you explode and you can't control it. And you don't dig yourself into a hole you can't climb out of, Jay.
That reminds me of the one class I had senior year where I used a Texas accent going into it, and I made about like 10-week semester. I made about 8 weeks or something, and then just randomly I went in for like a one-on-one with the teacher, and I was just talking normally like this, and he did not question at all. But as soon as I left, I was like, wait, I just used my real voice.
That's really impressive that you went 8 weeks with a fake accent in the class.
We were big in the Texas accent at that
was
point.
right after Friday night.
Can we hear
lights.
your Texas? Can the people hear your Texas accent?
Cheek, you know that. It's been a minute.
Hey there, Reginald.
Oh, my name's Roscoe.
Yeah, that's right.
I forget Roscoe Jenkins III.
Yeah.
I like horses a lot. I go driving on the Sunset Road, you know, dirt kicking up behind my Ford truck.
Behind your Ford truck.
Unlike those Tundras,
Did you
I
have
hate
any-
Tundras.
Where are you from?
They're from Sissy Boys.
Did you have any kids from the South in your class?
No.
Yeah, I like the
Travis,
so that was probably
actually.
kinda
Travis
easy.
was in there with me.
I like the idea that like there's
he
a
let
couple
that
people
slide.
in there
That's-
that were just like they knew that you weren't talking and they were just
Yeah.
like, this kid's really weird. Like, he's clearly talking.
Yeah, I feel like that's what
Texas.
everyone probably thought. Like, he definitely doesn't talk like that. Why is he doing that?
Why
That's
is
kind
this
of weird.
Asian looking kid talking in a Texas accent?
Oh god. Wow.
My dad is big oil tycoon, just so y'all know. Eli, I'm in another class with you. Aren't you from Chicago? Like,
I just got a completely different accent than the other one. I love Jordan's. Oh, it gets under my skin. His southern accent,
Oh, he has like he has more like a Georgian accent.
yeah,
where
sweet
it's like,
Georgian accent.
yeah, he has that like sweet maniacal voice. And he just, yeah.
like Pete's sweet southern mustard.
Pete's Sweet, sponsored by Pete's Sweet Northern Mustard. Or if you're looking for a kick, head down south to Pete's Sweet Southern Mustard. Or spicy Southern Mustard.
Oh, Pete.
Oh, that's enough of that. But I mean, that's honestly a good example of like the inflections and how inflections can change your perception of someone, because it's the same Spanky, but Spanky's giving you these little chili goose pimples because you hear him talk.
Willies.
These chili willies. But yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any experience with that? Like I feel like I've definitely thought someone was dumber because of their accent and or ability to say certain words.
I have thought about that a lot with hearing foreigners speak English.
Mm-hmm.
And I listen to them, and obviously there's like that judgment, you know. And then I think about myself, if I were ever smart enough or had put enough effort into speaking another language, that I would have an accent, and then it humbles me, and I realize that there is a very high chance that this person that I immediately judge their intelligence because they're a foreigner is more intelligent than me.
Yeah.
But it's like you know, you hear about, you know, whatever. This is such a easy generalization, but it's like you've got a doctor that moves from another country to the United States. They speak broken English. They can't practice medicine in the US because they're not certified in the US. That person's still a doctor.
Yeah. They're still smarter than us.
It's like that guy might be a cab driver in the U.S., but it's still a doctor. Yeah. It was incredibly smart human, way smarter than me.
The Union worked on nuclear bomb.
Yeah, exactly. That's so interesting.
Be
You
nice
know, I
to
think
your cab driver next time. Yeah.
yeah. I always notice it with myself with foreign accents. I feel like whenever it's a non English speaking foreign accent, there's a bias in my brain that I fortunately have come to that point where I've recognized that this person's probably smarter than me, but that is totally there. Because to me, in my mind, like when you guys had said earlier, what is like, I don't know, I think the question was like, what is the most intelligent accent or whatever? British to me comes to mind. But I think it's based around this image of just like a proper like royal, like you think of like the royal family and that kind of like super like uptight British vibe. But then like you hear an accent from different parts of the UK and you're like, oh my God, you sound like really, really dumb.
Yeah, it's like it's like super chopped up or like just like cutting words off.
Yeah, but it's and yeah, it's like that's probably not true, but it's like it's just like that bias you have. Like the Scottish accent is just like sounds insane.
Yeah.
You know, like
it doesn't sound like the same language despite speaking the same exact words.
Not at all.
I had an experience.
A lot of the words are different.
Actually, where somebody at my new job, I like spend a significant amount of time with, and I'm constantly in meetings with, and they speak very very differently than I do. Like I'm a pretty fast speaker and whatnot. And I found myself always trying to finish their sentences and always thinking like, man, like how is this person like, how successful they are. And are they actually like smart? Like, I'm not really sure. And then like, lo and behold, I have a meeting with somebody else and I start talking about the strategies of that other person utilizes. And they're like, no, like he is like, they got it going on. And it really made me think about first impressions and like not necessarily judging a book by the cover too. Like the first time I met that person, I was like, maybe not the, brightest bulb in the lamp store, but it can be.
Yeah.
It's so funny how that misjudgment on your own part, like you think of it as like initially it's like I don't know if ego would be the right word, but it's like you're sizing yourself up against them and you're thinking, oh, I'm better than you or I'm smarter than you. And in the end, that comes to haunt you. I guess like talking about that as like an evolutionary tool, maybe that is like the vanity of the human instead of having full evolutionary ability is like our miscalculations based off of somebody's accent could actually harm us in the long run because they could be more intelligent or better or whatever, but we hear something that's not what we think is the perfect and it's like, oh, they're not as good as me.
What time is that in the recording?
You want to write it down because you like that summation?
2:20. I think that's the first meaningful thing Corey said. Well done. 2 hours, 20 minutes, Corey. Thank you.
Man, you didn't like Manchego?
I give you a hard time.
You didn't like Manchego.
You didn't like my pepper jack moon?
I did not like your pepper jack moon.
I had myself at 3 or 4.
No, dude, that's a great observation. That's
coming from Cheek too.
Humans. Yeah, I've got glasses in case he couldn't realize I'm smart. You should have known that as soon as you saw me today. Like, oh, Cheek's got glasses on. Like, he's fucking smart.
He's the smart guy in the podcast. Yeah, Eli's the hair. I'm just the tech guy.
I'm the hair?
Yeah,
you're the hair.
That's what those blue light glasses are for.
I just wanted to put myself down. Yeah. I don't have an accent.
Those are blue light glasses,
They're
right?
purely
JJ?
blue light glasses. Yeah, they that's all they do. And
Oh, there's prescription too.
no,
Okay.
they're not. I wear them around.
Oh, they're pure. I thought that was
They're
sarcastic.
purely blue light glasses, and I wear them out around way too much for them to just be that. Yeah.
On
Yeah,
accident, or because you think they
No,
look good?
I don't. I look like the guy from Waco with these on. I don't think I look good.
You look like
You look like a cult leader. What's his
Are you
name?
saying
David
you look like
Koresh?
Tim Rickens?
Yeah, I do.
Yo, you can't get away with that little sneaky compliment.
I was getting more Silicon Valley like tech bro vibes.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. But yeah, either way, like I'll walk out of the house and be like, "Fuck, I have these on." Like I'll wear them
I
at the
was
store,
getting
and then I'll squint
the
at
glasses,
things to
the
like make
mullet.
it look
I was
like
getting
Go ahead, Cheek. Sorry.
valedictorian of the worst rated high school in the country. So like, you're the smartest of the absolute worst people.
It's a 6-person graduating class.
There's some hillbilly school
And his
in
dad's the
Florida.
principal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my family, and I was homeschooled, and I was a valedictorian. My mom and sister are cousins.
JJ got the valedictorian this year of all the siblings.
Greg Memorial High School.
But I just received like a medal that's sculpted to look like my dad. But what you were just talking about there, Corey, when Cheek gave you high accolades, we should start doing awards for each podcast episode.
Cheeks accolades.
I'm so down.
Cheeks accolades. Cheek's
new
smartest
bit.
thing of the episode. We'll do like at the end, we'll look back and we'll say like the accolades. There'll be the Cheek Intelligence Award, Eli's Creative Thinking Award, and JJ's you smell
can't
like
just be
shit
passing
award.
out my awards, JJ.
I'm not giving
Put those
anyone
back
your
in the
award.
bag.
I'm all right. Sorry.
Put my awards back,
The
dude.
podcast isn't over yet. But what you're talking about there, where you like judge people outside of your circle, that's kind of what you consider peer language. And a lot of people think that is actually an evolutionary thing because like people who are things and animals that are successful at evolution stay within their packs and kind of like grow and depend on each other. At least that's like what animals like us do. And so peer language is in like judgment that you feel towards everyone is theorized to be an evolutionary product of like being part of your pack, you know? And so looking at someone with vocal fry, so to speak, and saying, oh, they don't sound as intelligent as we do, kind of encourages that like pack mentality. I'd be interested to see, do you know anything about monkeys? Do monkeys like have specific groups?
Not that I know of. I
You're the
do know
monkey
that
guy.
they vary species to species.
What does?
Monkeys. So like chimps
you
behave
mean
differently
like
than
packs?
orangutans.
Mm-hmm. I mean packs within species, but that could probably be.
I think they do.
Oh, definitely. There are
Like you've got like your
chimps fight each
it's
other.
not like it's not a
They're ga-
bride,
they're like
but like
gangs.
there's definitely a name. There's that I don't know if it was. Have you guys ever talked about this? But the different crazy names for groups of animals, you know,
Oh,
Yeah.
you've got
like a murder.
like a pride of line, a murder. That's what is that? Geese,
Crows.
Murder of crows.
Yeah, like
we got a prickle of porcupines or something like that.
I think you're just making this up.
I think
now.
we're gonna have to fact check that one.
a group of chimps is called a community.
Oh, so yeah, I guess
A lot
that
like a group of humans. Interesting.
They live in groups that range in size from 15 to 150 members, although individuals travel and forage in much smaller groups during the day.
Sounds like government. Do they have congressmen? Congress chimps?
No, but they've got the leaders that are just like the strongest guys that murder
Yeah.
everyone.
Like Caesar in your favorite movie, E. Planet of the Apes. Remember, you're the Planet of
Oh.
the Apes guy.
Yeah,
Yeah. ye.
Well, I'm gonna butcher this delivery because I'm not gonna have all the facts straight, but I remember hearing about this group of chimps, and it was like it was this brutal community of chimps, and the chimps were all super aggressive because they were like typically like raised by the males, and the males like started to become cannibalistic or something, and they all caught this a quill of pigs.
Called a prickle.
A prickle? Oh, of porcupines.
Wait, people call porcupines
but they all caught
quill
this
pigs?
disease.
So I just saw. Sorry, Corey, go ahead.
I think you did see that, a quill pig.
Cheek, you're a quill pig.
But it's like these chimps were like super aggressive, you know, because it was like the male line continuing, and at some point all the males caught some like brain
Zombie
eating virus bacteria, and the males started dying out, so all the young were starting to be raised by the mothers, and they like became this docile, nice, thriving community because like I don't know, that one
the
bit of
influences.
the pack, like
Yeah.
Man, fuck
Yeah.
the patriarchy. That's what I'm always saying. You know?
Cheek, you're a big anti-patriarchy guy.
Yeah, if any episode proves it, it's this one.
Yeah. Yeah, just go
If
back
I've
like
taken
30
any
minutes.
stance today, it's fuck the patriarchy.
I wish we had like an instant rewind button that I could just
Men
capture.
are perfect.
Yeah, men are perfect. Women are making mistakes.
quill pig.
Quill pig.
Quill pig. But yeah, that's kind of what's referred to as peer language. Have you also heard of posturing?
So like pretending to be something, like when the TED Talk thing.
Yeah, exactly. Have you watched that TED Talk?
Nah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're talking about like Reggie
Elaborate
Ross.
for us.
So posturing is like when people use, you can really tell it when people use bigger words than they like really know. You see it a lot in Hicks. Sorry to stereotype. But
I do that.
I mean, I'm sure we all do. Cheek, you and I both do that.
Do what?
We posture, or we used to at least. We used to use big words for
What does
fun.
that mean?
Are you not listening?
I don't posture.
He's watching the draft.
Cheek, turn off the draft.
I'm not watching the draft.
He looks over at the draft.
Cowboys are on the clock.
Cheek, if you can't listen to the podcast, how are our guests going to listen to the podcast?
I'm actually not watching the draft. I just did that all for show.
You're a showman.
I don't. When did I used to posture? What are you talking
Cheek, you
about?
used to posture all the time. Don't even come at me with this. You used to do this thing with Josh Lockowitz where he would always talk like this, and you latched on to him, and you would talk like this
Dude,
too.
that wasn't posturing. That was making fun of the way one of our other friends talk, dude.
That's different. That's making fun of him.
That was not posturing.
All right, I'll leave it alone. But the idea of posturing, Cheek, for those of us, for mainly those watching the draft who weren't listening, Cheek, is posturing is basically when you like take a group who isn't like another group and you imitate that, but not to make fun of necessarily. It's more to either blend in or appear to be from that group. So Cheek, maybe.
Oh, I definitely posture.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us more, Cheek.
I still do that with customers at the brewery. Like if they start talking, oh yeah, we're from Georgia. Oh yeah, you're all from Georgia? Like, what are y'all doing up here?
I'm definitely in the trailer for this episode, cutting from you getting extremely offended about posturing to just cutting to the chase and saying you're posturing.
Oh, yeah, I posture.
Yeah, I posture.
No, I posture all the time. I don't mean to be rude about it.
Yeah, it's not rude. It's like people use bigger vocabulary words. I use words that I don't know what they mean all the time. Mainly because I'm just really confused in general as to like where I am and who I'm talking to. But for the purpose of this conversation, I just use big words to try to sound like, to try to express my point. I never know what I'm saying.
Wait. Now I might be rewinding, repedaling.
Repedaling?
Is posturing like
forward.
imitating the style and the inflection of somebody's voice, or is posturing using words that are big words that you don't know what they are to try and sound smarter.
It can be both.
So like, don't do the latter. But if somebody's speaking in, hey, I'm up in Montreal in the Canadian accent. Hey, I'm from Vermont. Like, we talk the same way.
That's imitating. I don't really get what your distinction with this is right now.
I thought you just said posturing.
Is it the same thing?
Yeah, you're both. What you just did there was the same thing because you were using a. That's a different word that you're using to imitate someone.
But you were saying that posturing is using big words that you don't understand what they are.
I mean, that's one
but
way.
You
it can
also
manifest.
said it was copying the way that somebody speaks.
Yeah, it's both.
It's a general latching onto. Yeah.
It can be both. So, like for example, in the early 2000s, when people were encouraging people who talk with that vocal fry to present themselves in a hireable way, they were saying like talk with confidence and your statements with like periods and not whatever a vocal fry is. That would be like encouraging posturing. Or if you're talking to someone at a bar and you're having a shitty day and you just like don't have the energy, but this person comes in with the energy. I used to do this all the time when I worked at the bar. I'd like have to pep up and talk happy and like, I don't know, try to impress them. That could be posturing, just someone else's personality that's a less drastic example, but like posturing, the general concept is like taking the idea of someone you want to be or something that you want to be and emulating that and bringing it on. And all of that comes from just like norms that our society creates. Like you're just imitating a norm that like the vocal fry isn't smart and you want to sound smart. Like all that doesn't make sense. Like there are doctors who speak with vocal fry. I'm sure there are born and raised Californian doctors who have that kind of like inflection in their voice and are still doctors and still got the same education that other doctors got, you know? So I don't know if that made things clear or more confusing to you, Cheek. Sorry. You're completely lost.
Not just in this conversation in life, but
maybe you should posture a smart person and follow along.
Well, that'd be tough because I can't find any in this podcast right now. Except for Corey's one statement.
If you're, Corey, just posture Corey's single sentence.
Well, howdy doody.
All right, now we gotta act like Corey. But yeah, wow. We went all over the place on that one, and I'm happy to do so. Do you guys have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I do. I have an idea.
Titillate us.
There's only one Cheek Award per episode. I hope you know that.
I'm wondering how, excuse me if the way that I'm saying this is inappropriate or whatever, but like black speak ebonics. Mm-hmm. How does that play into all of this? You know, like you hear that conversation of like, oh, why don't you like try not to talk black? You know, like if you want to get a job, don't talk black. That kind of thing. Like, how does that play into the whole like vocal fry? Did you read anything about that?
So actually,
why is that?
Oh, sorry.
Why is that a thing in our society?
I mean, that's just got to come down to racism, but I did hear,
okay.
I mean, this is all like the balance of stereotypes and generalization and stuff like that. So that falls right into that, just in a different community. One thing that I did hear is like the alternative to that is like with rap music, and there was like a push for people to like white people who wanted to get into the rap scene to talk differently and rap differently, to be able to sound like they belong there, and so that when they would make songs and things like that, it would fit into that genre more. So that was actually posturing in the alternative direction, or the opposite direction, what you're talking about, where like they wanted to fit into that peer group and they wanted to fit into that genre. And so like there was a lot of cases of like white people adopting the language of like different communities around them that were.
Do you see it with Post Malone?
Yeah.
Early Post Malone.
Does he change?
How he talked compared to how he talks now? It's like he's still kind of, he really, really, really leaned into it at the start of his career. Now you kind of hear and you know, maybe it's I don't know what it is, just like an age thing or something, but like he really kind of like spoke with that I don't know, like trying to be a rapper. I don't know what
the right way to say
the
it,
correct reference is, but like he's from Texas. Like you can hear when he's in interviews now, he kind of has like that Southern drawl. He, you know, he enunciates a lot more, and it feels more natural to him. Whereas like early on in his career, he didn't do that a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I think that's like what you're saying, like with that that posturing of him trying to fit into that community he was trying to be a part of.
And that's another example of like maybe like, so you're talking about like what he started with and what was mimicking, and we're associating that with Black culture. And maybe we're misappropriating where that comes from because of our experiences too. I don't know for sure. Like in a lot of these examples, a lot of people associated it like with the like vocal fry, like this is what dumb people do, you know, but it's not a quality or a feature of someone who's dumb. It's something that we associate it with. So one thing that I was finding a lot of is that like, if you ever find like a superfluous, first of all, Post Malone is clearly a smart guy, and he like almost brands himself as dumber to appeal to an audience, you know? Like I think what you said is spot on, is that like he has, even now still, he has this like act as someone who's dumb, but I think he's a brilliant guy. Like he's hilarious. He writes all his music, right? So he has to be somewhat genius in that perspective. But now I just lost where I was going with that. Oh, but if you ever want to like, if you look at something that's superfluous, like how someone dresses, the tattoos on someone, I always like, this is something like if you need to talk to some old person that has these like stigmas in their head, like some of the best ways to get someone to change their mind is just showing them someone smart that has those features. Cause there's always going to be an example. Like there's so many people who think people with dyed pink hair or whatever, or girls with short hair, or like guys with tattoos, or like trans or like gay people. There's always people out there that think that for some reason those superfluous qualities, superficial, I don't know what the right word for that is, but these identity qualities that have nothing to do with like how their brains work, are attached to their like smartness or not smartness. Smartness is a great way to tell you that I'm not smart. But it's like, go find someone. There will be an example of a community leader that is smart with those attributes. Not saying you're going to change like my grandma's views. Like she won't change your mind, but like, it's a good way to like, to test your own theory to see like, is what I'm thinking like part of their actual intelligence or this actual quality that I'm judging upon, or is it more like just something I've been grown up to think, I should say.
I think of the surfer bro thing where you listen to him talk, like that one guy in the interview is like wabow, and then just talks like he's spaced out of his noggin. Yeah. And so many people watch that and they're like, that guy's an idiot.
Yeah.
But I think there's stuff like that, like the person who drinks a lot too, like the partier, where they can just say something like, oh bro, or like, yo, something like that, where it, like, most people don't get what they're saying, but if you can relate to them and you can pick up on like the deeper meaning immediately, like if you hear a surfer talk about catching a wave, I'm sure most people can't relate. But to someone who has had that same experience, I think that they like pick up on that right away.
Right. And to judge someone off of something like the yos or something like that is more likely just an indication that you're trying to write them off and you're trying to distract from like the core of who that person is in the first place. So like with the yos and stuff like that. I mean, I always think of like our friends who were just like blackout on the weekends, but like are now becoming lawyers or like pursuing science careers and things like that. And you just think of like, those are some of my favorite people who just like, you wouldn't know based on their weekend schedule, but they're like genius, very smart people. And maybe it's a little better to judge someone based on their alcoholism than it is to judge them on their accent, but to each their own.
I remember we could have a whole conversation in just yos. Like go to walk by 7-Eleven and be like, oh, yo, 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 yo. And then you start walking in to the chili dogs, be like, yo, 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 and start slurping.
That's verging on just creating your own language.
Hey, that's how you say it, not what you say.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. It makes you think that, like, I would like to see experiments with people who don't speak the same language, who end up, people who don't speak the same language communicate, like, verbally, or non-verbally, but with, like, inflections, with yos, with body gestures, with facial movements. Like, I'm sure there's, I don't know why I didn't think to look into that, but I'm sure there's some stuff that's out there. All right. As a real closing goodbye, Chick already gave us a closing goodbye, but I think we should just harmonize. Ready? 3, 2, 1.